There are people with 2,000-day streaks who are still stuck at beginner level, okay? 2,000. That's more than 5 years of showing up every day, and the speaking never came for them. So if that sounds a little bit too familiar, it's not because you're lazy. And I know this because I've spoken to lots of different people in this position. Your streak is just measuring the wrong thing, effectively. You're just calculating the wrong thing. And I'm going to break down why the streak feels like you're winning, but what you should actually be doing and what you should actually be counting instead, and why 15 minutes a day, for example, is a trap and it keeps you stuck inside of it. So let me show you what I mean. So 2,000 days and you're just still stuck, okay? The streak went up every single day and your speaking didn't, or your language learning abilities didn't. How is this possible? How can you spend so much time and nothing seems to be moving? How can this be the case? Well, a streak proves that you showed up, which is awesome, but not necessarily that you moved. Now, I will also preface by saying this. Showing up is, in my opinion, probably the most important factor, if not one of the most important factors. And that's really good. That's awesome. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're moving in the right direction with respect to your actual literal goals. I'm just getting my mouse out of the way here. Okay, so here's what this video is going to answer for you. We're going to talk about why the streak feels like you're winning when you have this long streak, what it should be counting instead of what you have been counting, and why 15 minutes a day traps you. And then we're going to show you how to aim at the right target. So all this time that you've put in, because after all, you're really good at committing. You're really good at showing up. So how can we take the hard part that you've already built and just point it in the right direction? That's the main thing we're looking to do here. Okay, so there's 3 questions as always, and we're basically just going to unlock them all as the video goes on. So the empty streak, this is what you're going on. This is what you're dealing with right now, the empty streak, okay? The number climbs every single day, but you don't, which is a problem. Why is this the case? Well, it's adherence, but it's hooked to the wrong target. So here's why the streak that you're doing feels like winning right now. And here's where a lot of the frustration comes from. Okay, here's where the source of it all really is. Well, the streak measures progress, right? No, it measures that you opened the app, right? In this case, I'm talking specifically about the apps that keep coming or keep having you come back, no matter what they are, that measure you showed up yesterday and the day before and the day before, and why that's not translating into you feeling like you can actually communicate with native speakers in the language that you've been putting time and effort into. Okay, well, the streak climbs every single day, and that's awesome because it's training adherence, but the actual speaking ability, which you can see right here, is just flat for months. And these 2 lines were never actually connected, right? You have a streak, that's awesome. And you have, I guess, your ability to say a couple sentences or recognize a couple like little colorful flashcards or whatever. The sinister part about it is it feels like it's connected because you're doing both, right? You're showing up, you're doing the thing and it's saying ding, 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 you got it. And then also you're doing the cards or you're repeating the little phrases or you're walking along the little map that it gives you or whatever, but they're not actually connected, okay? A 2,000-day streak can still end at A2. It's a harsh reality, but it's true, right? 2,000 days, 5 years over, I believe, can still end at A2. And again, I'm not a huge sucker for these like A1, A2, B1, blah, 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 blah. Like again, they can be helpful if you find them helpful, but I'm not a huge sucker for them. But the point is if you understand what A2 is, basically you're not where you want to be is the point that I'm making, okay? So I just want to let you know right now, though, there is going to be a free sprint planner that's below, and it aims to show you your actual hours and how long it should take, at least in my estimation of how long it actually takes students that I work with, if you do the right things. So if you're curious as to how long this should take you, it's right there in the description. If you want it, no pressure. It'll be sitting right there. Okay, so we really answered the first question. Why the streak feels like winning is because it counts the days that you showed up, but not necessarily the distance that you moved, right? There's a difference between distance and displacement, right? You could just be running in a circle. That doesn't mean you're moving towards your goal. That just means you're running in a circle. You're not actually going where you want to go. Even though you've technically moved a lot, you're not moving in the right direction. And of course, you understand that. If you're watching this video, that makes sense to you by now. So here's what it should be counting, okay? Rather than showing up, here's what it should be counting. So let's take 2 learners, the same streak, but very different speakers. And I say speakers, but really I should just say abilities in the language, right? Because you might just care more about reading or writing or whatever. We'll say speakers. That'll be our proxy. So 15 minutes of app taps versus 90 minutes of real input. It's the same streak on a calendar. You showed up every day, you did the thing. And again, of course, you're going to recognize that 90 minutes of input is a lot more time than 15 minutes on an app, just total time, regardless of what you're doing, right? It's still like a way more time. But the point is that you've already locked in the show up part, right? What you do when you show up, that's the second consideration that we're working on. And that's what we're talking about in this video. But you've already locked in the show up, which is you're already, I'd say 90% of the way there in terms of the hard thing out of the multiple things you need to build. You've already built the hard thing. So this video should just be the linchpin that's going to unlock real progress for you. So count hours of real input, not days on a calendar. Now, of course, you can translate this into days in different ways, assuming that you're doing the hours every day. But my point is, what you're really trying to stack is hours of input. That is super, super important, not just showing up to an app. Okay, so here's why the 15-minute a day trap actually gets you. Well, 50 minutes a day is the very expensive lie. And here's why. Here's the broken down pieces as to why. Well, there's a bucket. The first bucket is that there's a hole in the bottom and it drains faster than it fills. Essentially, what I'm saying is you kind of need this critical mass of the language in your brain to really build on each other. And when you're only doing 15 minutes a day, you're not really signaling to your brain when you go to sleep and things are moved from your short-term memory to long-term memory. You're not really signaling to the brain this is all that important, right? It doesn't really have all that much to migrate. 15 minutes compared to other things, scrolling, that you might be doing for, let's be honest, a few hours a day, okay? So point is, you're not really moving much over. So 15 minutes a day just isn't really filling that bucket. Next is 7 years, okay? If you do this for 5, 6, 7 years, it stretches the misery until you quit. You're this beginner. Like I said, you don't get to A2, but you're at A1 or A0 or nothing, right? For so long, and it sucks. So you don't have any motivation to keep it actually going. And so even the adherence thing, the thing that you've been really solid at, which is showing up, is going to begin to dwindle. Why? Because you're not getting anything out of it. So unless you're just addicted to the app, which again, a lot of us are, but the point is if your goal is language learning or language acquisition, you need to spend time doing it. And if it's really boring or you're not seeing any results, why would you keep spending time doing it? Just stands to reason, again. So it's never fun, and you bail you bail before the language pays you back. So again, not fun because you're not seeing the results. And here's what I recommend is the sprint, okay? Heavy hours now. Do it like an Olympian trains for the Olympics, where you basically put all this time in before the event, except the difference is that you get to keep the language basically for good with a little bit of upkeep. So it's not actually like you have to do all that much, but you get a huge payoff. So what I recommend is that you do a sprint you find in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. Again, that's what the tool in the description is for, but basically you can find an amount of time, and then you can basically just blast that all up front and then just maintain it later, because how you coast with that is on native shows. Oops, did not mean to skip that. So we're going to go back, technical difficulties. Anyway, the point is you basically have to coast on native shows to keep a lot of the progress that you've made. So the 15-minute a day thing, that's not learning, that's forgetting at a polite pace. And I've said this before, but it's forgetting at a polite pace. Okay, so answer 2 is now unlocked. What it should be counting is hours of real input, not days on a calendar, or at least not just days on a calendar. Okay, so aim at the right target. Same total effort, 2 very different shapes. Let's look at them, okay? The 15-minute trickle versus the sprint. Okay, let's talk about this. The 15-minute trickle is never going to really get you to the point where you can coast listening to native content. I have yet to see it happen. Maybe you're Superman and you can do it, but I've never seen it, okay? But the sprint, what's going to happen is you're going to get to this line, right, that I'm kind of hovering over right here. You're going to get to this line a lot faster because you're putting all this time up front. And so all those issues that I said in the last slide about it getting boring and hard to adhere to it, all that stuff is going to begin to just fall away, because what you're doing now is all the stuff that's really fun. You're listening to a show you care about. You're listening to a podcast you like. You're doing the stuff you would do in English in your target language. And wow, what an amazing time that is. For any of my friends who are watching who have been able to do this in the past, where they can combine language learning with another hobby, it's like bliss. It's amazing. Okay, so again, this can be the same total hours, because in this case up here, we're basically putting a 15-minute trickle over 5 years versus just kind of squeezing it in up here and making it a little bit faster. And even though I say right here, it's the same total hours, actually it's not. You can have less hours in the sprint. You can have less hours and actually get more progress. You just have to stack it up front, and that takes real planning and real discipline. So I highly recommend you find that time in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, year, whatever it is that's good for you, and try and stick to it and make it a priority. Okay? So you don't need more consistency. You already have that. You're one of the lucky few who have a skill that's actually really hard to build. The consistency, the showing up, that's hard. And maybe that's one of the benefits of these apps, is training you to do that, okay? But what you need is more intensity aimed at the right spot, right? So we can target this little guy, this guy right here, right? When we get to the point where native content or near native content can just carry us in our language abilities and in our language pursuits. Okay, so the only scoreboard that counts. This is the only thing that should matter to you. Okay, it's not the streak. It's the hours until native content carries you. Why? Because that's when it gets fun. And when it gets fun, you don't have to wrestle with yourself to do it. You don't have to search for a million methods. You don't have to waste any time. You know what to do, and you're just enjoying it. You just enjoy the language, and that is getting you better every single day. Okay, so every real hour pushes you toward coasting. Every hour that you're putting in with this method that I'm recommending to you, which isn't really a crazy method, it's just spending time with the language, counting your immersion, all of that moves you towards a point where you just coast. And once you get there, you never have to go back. You can just coast. Okay. And by coast, I mean, you can kick your feet up at the end of a day and watch a show that you like and find out who the murderer was in the show, or, oh my God, who's he cheating on her with, or whatever. Any of these things in the shows that you like to watch, you can do that. And that is your language learning. There's no real 15-minute shortcut to the finish. I'm sorry, there's not. Okay. And so what you're exchanging here is discomfort early in order for comfort forever. And it's a pretty good trade. So aim at the right target. Let's wrap this up, okay? Days on a streak is not what's important. Unless that streak is doing really solid input every day or output every day or whatever it is, once you've built enough of a robust model of the language in your brain so that you can actually go and speak to people without having to rely on a 15-minute app. And you can speak to people and enjoy it, so it carries itself. So days on a streak, no. What you care about is hours, intensity, input. That's what you care about. So why the streak feels like it's winning, this was answered. It's that days show up, but no distance moved. Okay, you're doing, again, I'll remind you, that's the hard part. Congratulations, pat you on the back there. But again, it's not just days showing up, it's days showing up doing what? Okay, so days show up, not distance moved. What it should be counting is hours of real input, not just calendar days. I say not calendar days, I mean not just calendar days. And then why 15 minutes a day traps you is because it drips. It just drips out of the bucket, right? It's not zero, but like it may as well be because it never gets fun. It takes so long. So it drips, and a sprint fills the bucket quickly. And then you can just maintain it by topping it off by watching native content. So aim the hours, okay? Not the streak. That's what we're aiming for, the hours, not the streak, and lock it in. Now we have the answer to all these questions at the beginning of the video. Okay, so that's basically the end of the video. Again, I'll remind you the Fluency Sprint Planner is down there in the link below and in the pinned comment if you're interested. Also, again, everything that I mentioned in this video is a part of a larger system, which is a video that's going to be playing right after this one, which is called the Fluency Roadmap. Takes you from 0 to conversational fluency in basically a single video, and that should play right after this one. So honestly, this was a fun video, as they all have been lately. Hope you've been enjoying the new style. Let me know what you think in the comments. Awesome hanging with you, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.